So when we plant oaks at Dane County, we normally use containerized potting structure. It does better, we have better success, and they're significantly cheaper than ball and burlap. The nice thing is, as a homeowner, most of the plants that you're going to be getting, or trees you'll be getting, will be in containerized form. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to plant a containerized tree. Fall is a great time to plant. We're planting thousands of trees in Dane County parks right now, and we figure we do a little PSA on tree planting. So one of the first steps for planting a tree, and even before you dig a hole, is to contact Digger's Hotline, 811, or one call. You want to make sure you don't have any ground utilities, whether you're digging with a stump grinder like we do for tree planting, or digging with a shovel. After you've called Digger's Hotline, you waited 3 days, you got your area marked to make sure you know that there was no utilities underground, you dig your hole. At Dane County, because we have heavy equipment, we use a stump grinder to make our job a little easier. Makes nice fine dirt and preps our planting site nicely. You want to kind of measure, get an eye feel for how big your hole needs to be. It can be a little deceiving when you're planting a containerized tree or a ball and burlap tree. There can be a lot of extra soil, there can be a lot of extra material that's above that root line. So when you're planting, you dig your hole roughly the same size as your container. You might either have to add more soil to it, you might have to take some soil out once you figure out actually where the top of your root ball is. Also important for depth is width of the hole. As you are planting a tree, you want a hole that is larger, that you've dug, that is larger than the root ball that you're going to be putting in. For a number of reasons. One, the main one is that you don't get this hard scarified side that can kind of bound the roots. You want to have nice, easy soil for the roots to be able to grow into and take off from there. Most urban soils that you'll be planting in are trash. They're heavily compacted, and so I think roughly the average bulk density or the average density of a soil in the urban environment is around the density of a brick. So if you can break up that soil as you plant a tree and get some nice roots, loose soil for those roots to kind of take hold in. So once you've got a nice, roughly properly deep soil or a hole and a nice wide hole, we start looking at pulling the tree out. You want to be careful when you're handling. You're not going to be pulling the tree from up top. If you handle too far up on the trunk, you can actually break the roots loose and you lose your root ball. For large containers like this, I'll normally turn it on its side and slowly pull it out, grasping it from its base. For small containers that are a little easier to handle, you can actually just pull it straight out. If you find that your root ball is bound, you can kind of hammer on the side of this to break it away from the side of the container and then continue to slide it out. Worst case scenario, sometimes you might have to cut the container off. If that's the case, normally when you have to cut the container off, you're going to have some significant root issues. We'll talk about managing that in a little bit. So I'm going to tip this tree over on its side carefully and gently so I don't break the roots apart. And then I'm just going to pull it out and then reset it up. At this point in time, I can kind of take a look at the condition of the root ball. A lot of times what I'm looking for is these fine roots, and they'll be circling inside of the container. You can use a knife or razor blade or some kind of cutting tool that you don't care about as much. I have a certain set of root pruning tools, handsaw, these fiskers for instance, that aren't going to be used to prune other material, but you can look around and look for a lot of what we call bound roots. This root ball is actually in pretty good shape. Oftentimes you'll see a mass of these that'll be twisting, especially if you got a fairly large tree or a large plant in a smaller container. As that tree grows, it pushes against the side and it will girdle or stem girdle. Problems with that is if you plant the tree too deep and you don't take care of this, those roots can grow over and then girdle the tree itself and kill it off. If you plant the appropriate depth but you don't do anything with girdling roots and you plant it appropriately, those roots will grow in a girdling shape and lead to tree instability. Really problematic with maples and lindens. You see a lot of 25-year-old maples and lindens that start failing because of that, and they'll just kind of become like a ball and socket. They no longer have a good structural support and they fall over. Great time at planting to try to correct root issues. With bare root trees that we plant, a lot of our materials in bare root trees, we can see all of our roots and we can make any changes we need to right then and there. we are a little blind, so we're only going to be able to really see the outer portion of this tree. At this point in time, I'm going to measure take a second measurement of the root ball. I'm going to find the top of my roots, which this is the top uppermost root here. I do have one girling root here, so I'm going to cut that off. Prune that off right now. Save myself problems in the future. There's another one here. I'm going to prune that off as well. Get rid of those so we don't have those problems down the road. Complex tool for measuring. Any stick you got. Hand tool is really nice because they're fairly level. So that's about the depth of a root ball. Measure it there. Remeasure it on the shovel. So there. You can cross-reference yourself. So the depth of the hole is actually pretty accurate. You don't really need to go much deeper. So again, if you looked at the size of the container, if I dug it that deep and planted that deep, I'd be, half a foot too deep on the tree. Now, when I move the root ball into the hole, again, we'll be very gentle, careful, roll it over, treat it like it's my baby, roll it into the hole. At this point in time, now it's in there, get some of this fill in there, it's fine. I might go ahead and rough up some of those roots some more, just so I don't get some roots going through. Again, don't use your loved one's favorite knife or pruning to do this. Find something that's cheap that you're not afraid to dull out. So I'm going to cut that up, rough that up a little bit. It's really important to really do this when it's in the hole so you don't have the root ball kind of fall apart on you. Now it's in the hole, we just fill it. One of the best tools for stump growing dirt holes is your metal rake. Get partially filled and we check our levelness. Make sure she's straight. She's not perfectly straight, not the end of the world. Trees go towards sunlight and away from gravity. So, she's a little off, she'll just have a little extra carrot. It's pretty straight to me from here. It's pretty straight from me there. I think that's good enough. I'm not going to worry about staking this tree. Got a decent size root ball to it. With bare root trees, we'll oftentimes stake them just because there's not as much of that lower weight associated with it. But since we have a nice root ball associated with it, it's holding it up, I'm going to leave it go. Staking a tree keeps it from kind of moving in the wind and developing a nice taper and nice root zone structure. I'll finish filling this in. Again, making sure not to cover the root zone. This is a really important portion of the tree where you're transitioning from the stem into the roots. A lot of decay can occur here. It's also extremely important for maintaining the tree upright. So I'll fill this in, keep this exposed, taper off the rest of the soil. If I have extra soil, I'll just kind of fill out the outer side of it, and then we'll mulch it.